No, I'm not recovering from whiplash. Today I'm going to be looking at neck speakers. I've got one here from Sony, another one from JBL, this one is from LG, and finally we've got the one from Bose. So let's take a look at them. You may have seen a video I did about a speaker from Sony that received a wireless transmission from your television so you could put the speaker nearer to yourself and hear the dialogue clearer at lower volumes. Well, while I was looking at that, I discovered this neck speaker also on the Sony website, only available in Japan, but it does pretty much the same thing, although of course you wear this one around your neck. Now, because it's a personal device, you can connect two of these to the base station, so you can both sit there with a neck speaker on if you want to. I can't imagine many people would do that, but these things have a speaker at either side of them, so it's just stereo sound. But the thing that they also have in addition is a kind of vibration chamber, which can be adjusted to 3 different levels, and apparently this was particularly good for wearing whilst playing video games. And it was this feature that intrigued me. I wanted to see how having a vibrating speaker around your neck would enhance the viewing experience whilst watching movies. But over on the Sony Japan website, for a while they've had a bit of an apology letter up there, stating that the demand has exceeded supply. Anyway, it didn't really matter. They've managed to catch up now, and I imported mine via eBay anyway, so it wasn't really too relevant. But it seems like this has been a particularly popular product. Now, the purpose of the Sony speaker is a little bit different to the other ones here. I've got 4 in total, and the Sony one really is designed primarily for the purpose of watching television, while the other ones can connect up over Bluetooth to your smartphone. Okay, let's start with the basics. First, what's the point of a neck speaker? Good question. Why not just use a set of headphones or earphones for listening to your music or podcasts or whatever? Well, the reason that I use a neck speaker around the house is because it doesn't isolate me. So if I've got this on, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm walking from room to room, I'm doing all the sorts of jobs I need to do around the house, and somebody knocks on the door, rings the doorbell, rings the phone, I'll hear it and I'll be able to respond to it. Whereas if I'm isolated with a set of headphones on, it's quite possible that I would miss that. Now, with wearing this, you don't have to take it off your ears or any of that business. You just press pause, and then when you've done whatever you need to do, press play and carry on where you left off. So that's what I like about these. It's really just for listening to things whilst also being aware of other things. The main disadvantage, though, is that it is a speaker. It's a neck speaker. You might as well just have a Bluetooth speaker and tape it around your neck on a piece of string, although you probably don't really want this one on a string around your neck. But, you know, that's the same idea. You've got sound emanating from this. It's not like a set of headphones where it's just you that can hear it. These have speakers in them, smaller speakers than this, but still, it's not just some sort of magic sound bubble that only you can hear due to some clever technology. No, you're walking around with 2 Bluetooth speakers that everyone can hear. So you might want to only use this in your car and in your house and in your car if you're not in there with other people that you can annoy. This isn't something that you would go and listen to on public transport. Please, I hope people don't do that, because that would be awful. Then you need your noise cancelling headphones to cancel this out. But yeah, this is something I'd wear around the house, nowhere else. Right, so I'll start with the Sony and I'll show you what you get with each of these. So the Sony is the SRS WS1. It cost me somewhere between £250 and £300 to import one from Japan via eBay and pay the import duties. You can see on the back here, it's just for Japan at the moment. Maybe they'll start selling this elsewhere in the future as well. And I'll get everything out of the box. I'll just show you what you get inside here. So starting off, we've got 2 USB leads and we've got 2 USB power supplies or chargers. Usual 5V, 1.5 amp on these, multi-voltage, or you can just use your own instead with a local plug on there, or use those with an adapter. That's a 3.5mm sort of patch lead really. And then we've got this, which is a 3.5mm lead that plugs into the neck speaker itself, so you can plug it into a device with a 3.5mm output. And there's an optical lead which plugs into the base station. Yes, this thing comes with a base station and with a charging dock. It's the only one of these that comes with a charging dock. That's the dock there. Obviously plug the USB power supply into there. And then this is the base station. So in here, you plug that into power, you plug your digital output from your television into there, or your analog output from your television into there, one or the other. A couple of buttons on the bottom there just to reset it and things. So that's what it looks like when it's set up with your television. So the transmitter then remains near to your television, and you put your next speaker on, and the sound comes out of the slats at either side. Inside those slats, by the way, there's just a simple speaker which bounces the sound up through there. There's nothing particularly clever going on. The power button is on the front there, next to the intensity button for the vibrations. There's 3 intensities, and then on the other side you've just got volume up and down, and a USB port. That USB port, you can charge it from that if you want to, but also that's where you plug in that headphone adapter, which then enables you to plug it into something that you can find with a 3.5mm mini jack. And to charge it, you can either rest it on this charging dock, at which point it makes a beep and a little light comes on the top, or of course you can just plug the USB directly into the next speaker, and with a full charge it will get you approximately 7 hours worth of playback. So that's the Sony, but let's move on now, because I realised after buying it that I could have just bought the JBL sound gear. That was available in the UK, it was cheaper, and it does the same thing that the Sony does, and more besides. You see, this one, just the same as the Sony, you can connect it up with a little dock that's included inside the box and transmit the audio from your TV to the speaker. But in addition to that, unlike the Sony, which uses its own transmission standard, which isn't compatible with Bluetooth, so you can't connect your smartphone to it, the JBL, you can. It uses normal Bluetooth Aptx. Now, unlike standard Bluetooth, which isn't really suitable for connecting up with a video source and keeping things in sync, Bluetooth Aptx low latency, as you can imagine, has low latency, which means that the video and audio will stay in sync over a Bluetooth transmission. Now, of course, for this to work, both the transmitter and receiver have to comply with the Aptx specification. Of course, both the devices in this box do, so you're ready to go. There's the specs on the screen now. I don't know if you can read many of those, but the ones that I'm really concentrating on in this video are the battery life, and similar to the Sony, this one will give you 6 hours of battery life. Unlike the Sony, though, with it connecting up over Bluetooth, you can use this one as a standard Bluetooth headset, and by that I mean you can talk through it. It's got a microphone on here as well, so you can answer calls on this one. Okay, so let's see what we get inside the box for the JBL Soundgear BTA. I'm sure you can probably imagine we're going to get a neck speaker, oh yeah, there it is, and some wires. Now, unlike the Sony one, there's no little USB chargers in here. You need to provide those yourself. And there's the base station. It's much the same as the Sony one. You can choose between optical or 3.5mm analog mini jack. We've got a power button on the back there and the usual sockets that you'd expect. So, very similar device there. Now, it doesn't matter which of these wires you use for which thing. One will charge the neck speaker up, the other one powers the base station. The base station needs very little power, so you can just power that if you've got a spare socket, say on the back of your satellite receiver, just plug it in there so you don't need to use a second plug socket up. And of course, we've got the optical and the 3.5mm mini jack leads here as well. So we'll just take a quick look around it. On the back we've got this reflective, shiny JBL badge. The rest of the top of this is covered with kind of a speaker grill cover type material. The bottom of it is hard rubber. It isn't flexible, it's got a rigid position. The power button is a slider switch. Then we've got the Bluetooth connection button on this side, and on the other we've got volume up and down and play and pause. Now, the thing with all these neck speakers is you need to memorise where the buttons are, because you're not looking at them when you're pressing them, so you need to be able to feel them. And there is a slight pimple on the play and pause button, but the buttons on here do feel very similar to one another, and they are quite small as well. You'll see on the back here there are some bass ports, and of course behind this little flap here, that's where you plug in your USB lead when you're charging it. Now, it's possible that I'm missing a trick here, but I found that when I wanted to listen to the sound from the television transmitted from that base station to the next speaker, of course I've got to pair the Bluetooth on those two things together, which is fine. But then when I want to listen to my smartphone over the next speaker, I go into the settings and connect the Bluetooth between those two devices, which then forgets the settings for the base station. So then if I want to go back and listen to the television again, I have to go through the whole pairing process all over again, which is a little bit inconvenient. And also, that's not the only problem I've been having with this. Right, so I'm sorry about the shaky cam footage, but I want to demonstrate something. One of the best things when you're listening to the television with a set of these speakers on is that you can then go out of the room, go into the kitchen, for example, get yourself something to eat, perhaps even walk into the garage, at which point it cuts out. But anyway, we'll then go back into the house and say you're in the kitchen. You're doing something, you're not missing out on what's on the television. If this was like a film or something, you better keep up with the action. Well, not see it, but hear it. And now we're back at the television again. Okay, right, now that was just a silly demonstration because you think, well, okay, obviously that works. Well, it doesn't work every time, because what I'm going to show you here is the JBL headphones. Now these are a little bit different. There's a problem with that disconnection aspect. So, put that on. That's a bit loud. Right, okay, I'm sure you can hear that. Okay, so, into the kitchen. Bit of cutout. Oh, into the garage. Yeah, cut out completely. Okay, let's go back. Now here's the bit I want to demonstrate to you. Just listen to this when this music gets going again. Once the connection gets lost, it doesn't come back again. It stays this distorted, scratchy sound. The only way to bring it back is to switch it off and then switch it back on again, which will then reconnect, and then the sound is okay again. Eventually. But that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to just pop into the other room with your thing on, come back, and it just carries on. So every time you're wearing the JBL and say you just want to get yourself a cup of coffee in the kitchen and come back, your audio's gone to hell. Whereas with the Sony, of course, it didn't, and that's how it should work. It should automatically just carry on. So as an experiment, I went on Amazon and bought a different Bluetooth transmitter which adhered to the Bluetooth Aptx standard, this little Tautronics device. It cost me, I think, about £30, and it's just the same really as the one that's inside the box. You've got the similar idea. We've got a power button here which also doubles as a sync button, rubber base on there. Don't worry about the optical in and out. You can use this as a transmitter or a receiver. You can't use this as a pass-through device, unfortunately, which would have been nice. You could have then connected up a soundbar as well, but no, it's either in or out. That's why it's got two different optical connectors on there, and you choose transmit or receive on the side there. But yeah, once this is connected up, well, let me explain. Oh great, says everyone, shaky cam man's back. Well, I'll just demonstrate this quickly. I've put the other adapter on here now, so this isn't the one that came inside the box. This is the one that I bought on Amazon, and connection's still fine here. Oh, bit of a drop out there. Let's check it in the garage. Oh, yeah, it's gone again. Okay, let's see if it recovers this time though. Back into the lounge. Fine. No problems. So the Bluetooth connector that's inside the box doesn't work as good as one that I bought separately. So at least you can get around the problem, but it's just something that I thought you should be aware of. Right, now on to the LG Tone Studio. First off, this is a discontinued model. They don't make this one anymore or anything similar to this with the speakers in it. They do other Tone Studio type devices which just have earphones in them, but this is the one with 4 external speakers, and it says it supports DTS, which intrigued me. The only reason I got this is because someone was selling it cheap on eBay, brand new in box. This one, just like the previous device, has a 6-hour battery life when you're playing it back through the speakers. Oh, and I should mention, it's just standard Bluetooth here, none of that low latency business, so it's not suitable for syncing up with video. Now, because it's discontinued, I'm going to skim through it a little bit more than I do with the other speakers in here. After all, you can't go and buy one of these new, unlike the other ones. But inside the box, you get some replacement earpieces, you get a USB lead, and the device itself. As you can see, that is quite a flexible device. It's got the 2 speakers at the top here, 2 in the bottom. Now those aren't the same speakers. If you have a look, they are just a little bit staggered from one another. So the ones at the bottom are supposed to sort of provide a bit of bass sound into your body, I believe. Now the Tone Studio type devices they do nowadays are all these ones with these earphones that pop out of the ends, and you just wear the thing around your neck to connect up to the Bluetooth and have the battery in it. However, this one is a 2-in-1 device. There's a switch on here to switch between the speakers or those earphones. In fact, there's like 1 million switches on here. Okay, exaggeration, but there's a lot of switches. More switches than there should really be on here. It's ridiculous because remember, you're not looking at this thing when you're using it, so you've got to try and memorize where all those buttons are. It just is a little bit over fussy. This volume control here is also another button if you tap it, and then another button if you hold it. It's that kind of thing. I can almost see why they've discontinued it. I think it was a little bit too elaborate. That's where you charge it, and you can also plug a 3.5mm mini jack in here and have it as a wired neck phone. So that was a quick look at the next speaker from LG, but let's move on because there's one more model that I've yet to feature, and it's the one from Bose. Now, Bose marketing definitely seem to be doing their job right, because this is the one that everyone's thinking of when you mention neck speakers nowadays. In fact, in a recent video where I reviewed the Sennheiser Surrounder, at the end of that video I mentioned a couple of neck speakers, and well, I'll just show you what I said at the time. We've now got some new products on the market. There's a neck speaker from Bose, there's one from JBL, and there's one from Sony as well. Now, funnily enough, under that video, perhaps about 50 people or so got in touch, and a few people emailed me as well to tell me that Bose were making a neck speaker. Well, I wasn't really going to review the Bose, but it seems to be the one that everyone's talking about. I was just going to compare the Sony versus the JBL in the video. So I went and bought the Bose as well, because I thought if I didn't, there'd be a bit of a mini riot. So I then ended up with the Bose and the LG as well. So that's why I've got 4 in this video. I was originally just going to have those 2. The Bose is quite a bit more expensive than the JBL, and of course it doesn't do as much. It doesn't connect up with a TV. It's got standard Bluetooth, not Bluetooth Aptx. So it's got that latency issue, so it's not suitable for connecting up with a TV. In fact, it even mentions as much on the FAQs on the website. But just like the JBL and the LG for that matter, this one works just like a normal Bluetooth headset. By that I mean you can make and receive calls on it, it's got a built-in microphone, and this one's got the longest battery life of the lot by quite some margin. It lasts for up to 12 hours on one charge. But because it's really just like a Bluetooth headset, but one that rests on your shoulders, there's not an awful lot inside the box. You've just got the neck speaker, some instructions, a USB charging lead, and some silica gel as well. But there's no charging stations or base stations, any of that kind of business. Bit of a different design to the others. We've got a cover on here which can be removed if we want to, but I'm not going to do that because it looks like it'd be a nightmare to put back on again. But as you can see, it's quite flexible. It's flat as well. We've got the controls at the right here for volume and play and pause. The other one is the Bluetooth connection and the power on off, and you can see we've got a zip that goes around there. If we undo the zip, well, do it all the way, you could take the cover off, but that's where the USB charging point is as well. This one has voice prompts on it. The LG had a couple of those as well, but we've also got some lights on here to show us what the charging level is at the moment. Now, there is a Bose Companion App for iOS or Android. It's not absolutely essential, however, it is useful. It will give you a bit of a tutorial on the device, tell you things like that. Play and pause button, if you double tap it, it will take you forward a track. Triple tap will take you back a track, as well as enable you to adjust some of the settings of the device. This has a vibration in it, which will vibrate when a call comes in, an alert vibration. It's not like the one in the Sony, which vibrates along with the sound. The LG had that feature as well, I should mention. But yeah, you can switch things like that on and off here and do various adjustments. Also, I needed to install an update. What a surprise. So I needed to charge it up first before it would let me do that. Okay, so now we've got them all out of their boxes and had a quick look at how they all work. Let's try and break this down a little bit, because I want to start off by talking about the controls on these. As I've mentioned a couple of times, these are controls that you have to press without looking at them. You don't generally take one of these devices off to operate the buttons on it, so they do need to be intuitive and large enough so that you can feel them with your fingers, and also they need to feel different to one another, and you need to be able to figure out which side the volume is on and which side the power button is on, so you don't keep switching the thing off. So let me just do a bit of an award ceremony for the best controls. Right, so the award for simplest controls in a neck speaker goes to Sony. However, we've got the limitations that this can only connect up to a TV or via a 3.5mm mini jack to a smartphone. So if you want a neck speaker that can connect up via Bluetooth to your phone, well, the award for simplest controls goes to the Bose. Now, whilst they might look similar to one another, how they feel while wearing them, well, that's another story. Okay, let's talk comfort. I'll start off with the Sony. Not very comfortable, surprisingly. It's got a bit of springiness in here, so you can adjust it slightly. It doesn't remain in any of those positions, it's just flexible. It sits on your shoulders like this. Now, if I had less layers on than I've got on now, just say a t-shirt for example, I would notice it sitting on my collarbone here. It's very noticeable. I don't know if you can see the angle on there, but it curves around and just sort of jams right on your collarbone at exactly the point you don't want it to. In addition to that, just feel at the back of your neck now. Just feel, do you have a little bone that kind of sticks out just at the base of your neck, at the nape of your neck? I think it's the nape. Well,
this has a nice little piece of plastic, hard plastic, that rests on that bone there and feels really uncomfortable. That's the charging point on the back of this. Now, this is covered with a cloth type stuff, but there's no give in it. It's really quite hard plastic, just with a very light covering of cloth. So there's very little padding apart from just these bits here that sort of sit just on your shoulders, which doesn't really sit at anyway. It's curved up and over there. So the soft bits don't touch your body. The hard, uncomfortable bits do. And it's not very comfortable. And I've really been trying to get used to wearing this because I actually quite like the sound. I like the concept of it. But I just have not been able to get used to this yet at all. I don't know if I ever will. So yeah, that's the Sony. Next, the JBL. Now this one, well, no flexibility in here unless you want to snap it. That's the shape of it. And I don't know if you've noticed, that seems quite narrow there, doesn't it? Well, it is. I'm not some kind of big bodybuilder, and I don't think I've got a particularly fat neck either. Well, I hope not. But this just about fits around there. Now, you can sort of stretch it a little bit just to scrape your fingers past the edge. But honestly, that's too narrow. I don't know what they were thinking there. I've got to guess it's made for people in other countries that have really thin necks or something. But just first world problems, literally. But just look at this. I'll do it from the front. Look at that. Don't know if you can see, try and get the light on it. It's really, it looks like acting that, but honestly, it is uncomfortable to put on and off. Every time I put this on, I think, so I kind of do it quickly like that. You can sort of do it sideways a little bit like that. It might help. But yeah, now in addition to that, it's kind of rubberized, but very hard rubber. Again, there's no give in this at all. There's no padding. So when you've got it on, it sits sort of okay, but you do feel like it's pushing in a little bit here. You're very conscious of it being on your neck, and again, just like worse than the Sony, I haven't really got used to this one at all. This kind of feels just like, get it off. God, it's ridiculous. So yeah, not suitable for my neck anyway. That's the JBL. Okay, next, the LG. Now this is by far the flimsiest of the lot. It doesn't remain in whatever position you put it in again. It's just flexible. But once you put it on there, I think if your neck was a little bit thinner than mine, you might be able to forget that you're wearing it because it's very lightweight as well. I just noticed that these end sections here, again, notice where they come to there, that's thinner than my neck. So they kind of just, you feel it pushing against your neck a little bit. It's just a bit like someone squeezing your neck from behind. And you can almost get used to it if you've got like a shirt on like this, something a bit thicker that pushes it away from your neck. But if you're wearing a t-shirt, you'll notice that kind of touching thing, and it's not my favourite feeling. But I'd say out of those three so far, this is probably the comfiest one of them. And now finally, the Bose. Now this one, it's got a bit of flexibility and it kind of retains its position ever so slightly. Not a massive amount, but just a little bit. This has got a covering on it. You can change these covers. It's water resistance as well, this one, which I don't think the other ones are. But like I mentioned earlier, this is not really something I would want anyone to wear outside the house unless they really like annoying people that they go near. But yeah, that sits better than the others for me. Of course, this is all personal opinion. I can't say that your neck's going to be the same as mine, and your shoulders and things. But for me, the Bose one is the one that I prefer to wear. If I'm walking around the house listening to podcasts from my phone, I don't mind wearing this. Every now and then I'll start to sort of notice it, think about it. Oh yeah, that Bose. And then you start to think about it more, and then it kind of gets annoying. But you can't put it out of your mind for quite a while, and it's not bad at all. It does take a little bit of getting used to though, but this is the go-to one for me for comfort. It's it's a little bit heavy perhaps. If they could have took a bit of weight off it, it would not sit on you just quite as heavily and you'd notice it even less. But still, the Bose definitely wins it for comfort.
So I suppose the big question that remains is which one sounds the best. So let's have a listen to them all. But of course, here we're just assessing the quality of my microphone and your headphones or speakers. But after that, I'll sum it all up as well. feel the rumble on this, much more than you can hear it, and it's a little bit like holding a game controller in that regard. So I wanted to try and demonstrate that on video in some way, but putting a glass of water next to it didn't do anything. I was hoping it might create the odd ripple, but if you look at this section here where I've sped it up, you can see it actually works its way across the countertop ever so slightly.
Normal, treble, bass.
Okay, now the award for best sound quality. Let's do it in reverse order, so we'll start with the worst. That's the LG. Now this is academic really because it's a discontinued model, so it doesn't really matter. But this definitely has the worst quality of these four. The speakers sound thin and tinny. They don't sound much different to listening to the audio from your smartphone. The only benefit is that you've got your speaker on your shoulder, whereas your smartphone would normally be a little bit further away. So you can have it a little bit quieter and still hear it. But I'm surprised that DTS put their logo on here, because first off, I've got to mention, none of these have got surround sound. They talk about surround sound, but they mean that they're surrounding you with stereo. None of these are based on 4 discrete channels. They're all getting normal Bluetooth audio or audio from a TV in stereo, and that's all they're piping into these. So yeah, DTS logo on here does not mean surround sound. In fact, I don't know why DTS put their logo on it. Perhaps it's just for the licensing fee. It might be the kind of company that would stick their logo on a potato if somebody paid them for it. So yeah, not very good, not recommended, discontinued, doesn't matter. Moving on, the Sony one. That comes in 3rd place. Now the thing with this is, it doesn't sound bad, it sounds okay, pretty clear, and I think that's what they're going for. They're going for the clarity, much like the Sony speaker I reviewed. It's to make the sound nice and clear, you can hear the dialogue and things, not bad for watching a telly with. However, when music comes on, which happens in TV shows and movies of course, incidental music, you notice that you're missing out on the bass. There's not so much warmth in the sound, there's no mid-range, there's no bass, it's all really geared towards the vocal side of it. Even though you've got this button on here to adjust it for the this wave effect, this vibration type effect, the 3 levels of that, 1 is off, 2 is medium, 3 is maximum. 2 doesn't really sound much different to 1. 3, well, that one increases the vibration, but the vibration is at the expense of the audio still. You're still not hearing any more bass, any more richness to it. You're just getting a vibration out of it. So you're still getting this thin sound, but with a vibration. It's a weird effect and it can get wearing over time. In 2nd place, well it's almost a tie, this one, actually. There's not much in it at all. But it's the JBL. Sounds all right, this one, not bad at all. The thing that put it into 2nd place for me over the Bose, which of course got the 1st place, is the sound in the JBL sounds very much like it's coming from behind you. sort of over your shoulders, and it's a little bit off-putting in a way when you're trying to sort of listen to things, that everything just seems to be behind you all the time. It's not something that we're used to. We're more used to listening to music coming from the front or from the side. So this constant sort of audio behind you thing can get a little bit tiresome, but the quality of it is good, well-rounded, rich, pretty decent overall. I can't really complain about it. It just sounds pretty much the same as the Bose. Bose perhaps a little bit richer, a little bit warmer, as you'd expect. Bose like the kind of bassy type sound, but it isn't done to a ridiculous degree. It's not like booming bass. It just sounds good, especially with a speech. Listening to people talking on podcasts, there's a nice warm quality to it, and it does sound like it's coming from your shoulders rather than from behind you. So number one goes to the Bose.
So as we head towards the end of this video, I've got to say it has been a long one, but we have reviewed 4 different things here, so I think you've got your value for money, which is more than I can say for myself, because I bought all of these. None were provided by the manufacturers, and I think I overspent a bit. I got a little bit carried away. One thing I'll say just before we get into this end section, though, I'm discounting the LG one, ignoring it entirely, because it's no longer offered for sale anymore, and it didn't sound any better than listening to the audio through the speakers of my phone. It was very thin and also a little bit overcomplicated in my opinion. So ignoring the LG, let's just sum up the remaining 3.
Right, so the end result, well, it's a little bit of a mixed one, because it's quite hard to just pick one of these out, because we are judging 2 different things here. The first one is neck speakers that can get audio transmitted from your TV and play it back to you sitting on the couch, and the second one is playing back Bluetooth audio from your smartphone or whatever device you've connected up to them. There's only one of these that can do both of those things, and it's the JBL, because it uses Bluetooth Aptx. It can receive the audio from your television with minimal delay. You won't really notice any delay at all as far as lip syncing goes, although I think there's an ever so slight tiny amount, but it's within margins that it doesn't annoy you. So it can do that, but also you can connect this up to your phone. The problem with this one is it's so uncomfortable. It's ridiculous. It's agonizing. It's like a torture device. I don't know who thought this up. They need to go back and think about it again. In addition, the controls on this are a disaster area. Oh yeah, we've got this entire big loop. What should we do? Let's shove all the controls in like a space that's about the size of your fingernail, and then make them all feel the same. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll go for that. So yeah, JBL, you kind of blew it. You almost had it, but you blew it. And also that transmitter that was provided in the box, as we saw before, if I walk out the room and go back in again, it won't reconnect properly. It all sounds sort of scratchy and terrible until you turn it off and on again. The one that I replaced it with sounded better, but still we've got all the other issues with this one. So yeah, I cannot really recommend it unless you tried this on and said, oh, this is the most comfortable thing in the world. And then, yeah, maybe that would be a good idea, because it is not badly priced when you compare it to the Bose. And the fact it does 2 things is one up from the Bose. The Sony speaker, well, if you want to watch your television and bring the audio up to your ears, it works for that. So that's really what you're going to use it for. Although, as I mentioned before, it is uncomfortable due to this bit of plastic that seems to just hit your neck at the wrong point, and the bits that hit your collarbone. And the audio is quite light on the bass. There's no richness to it. It's expensive as well. It's only in Japan. I don't think I could really recommend this, even though I've spent a lot of money on it. I'm still trying to force myself to use this since I spent so much on it. But I still, after all this time, I've had it about 2 months now, I still cannot get over the uncomfort level just yet. Maybe I need to start wearing a polo neck or something. Right. So the other one I can really recommend out of all these is the Bose, which, you know, people, I've got a lot of bad things to say about Bose. I personally like their quiet comfort headphones. I've used those in the past when I was commuting. Great for blocking out all the noise of other people going on about nothing. These, of course, no noise cancelling here, but the thing I will say about them is that they are the most comfortable of the lot. They've got the best sound of the lot as well. So if you do want a Bluetooth speaker, neck speaker to connect up with your phone, then the Bose is it. And as with all these things, I'll put some links in the video description text box to hopefully grab some affiliate revenue from sales. I don't know if they sell these on Amazon, but I'll have a look anyway. But anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching. Have you ever backed anything on Kickstarter?
Yeah, loads of things.
What did you get?
Oh, I didn't get any of them. Well, not yet anyway.
Why? What's the oldest one that you're still waiting for?
Well, I backed a car cradle for a Zune. That's due to ship any day now.
Oh, well, I was just thinking about backing something. It looks good on the video.
Send me over the link and I'll take a look at it for you. I'm an expert, me, at spotting scams.
Okay. Thank goodness for shortcuts. You should have it now.
All right. Oh, this is interesting. Let's look at this video then.
Hi there Kickstarters. We are proud to present the first truly useful home Android. We call it AHD, and we need your support to make the science fiction dream of a home assistance robot into a reality. Our team of experts have been working on this project for months, and with the help of the very latest cutting-edge computer technology, we have made a number of breakthroughs in self-aware, homicidal robots. With the aid of any computer system running MSX4 or above, you will be able to reprogram your Android to perform a number of useful functions.
By using the touch sensor panel, the user's input procedure has been simplified, thereby allowing anyone to use the interactive system.
Possible uses for your Android include
education, sales promotion.
And if you are bored with the latest high adrenaline computer games, you will be glad to know our robot companion can also be used for entertainment.
Entertainment.
Some functions can be restricted by a parental access PIN code.
Yes, I'd like to book a reservation for your hotel. Yeah. How much would it be for one night? Lovely. Okay. Thank you.
We aim to ship the AHD worldwide by Christmas 2018. But first, we need your financial help to hire some replacement engineers, who we hope can track down the reason the AHD currently kills everyone that it comes into contact with.
The AHD system, which pioneers the computer age, is a new system with unlimited potential. Long life can be expected.
Yep, I can't see anything wrong with that.
That's great. If I back it now, I'm still in time for the early bird price. Can you lend me £250,000?